With less than a week to go until the start of the NFL draft in Nashville, excitement has never been higher. And for the Eagles, once you get out of day one, things get very, very interesting. The team have 2 4th-round picks to their name, and although they could be candidates to trade slightly higher into the 3rd round, there is plenty of value to be had. Now comes the late scrap and scramble as everybody tries to get as much information as they can on the prospects who could hear their names called in round 4 of the NFL draft. Here are 5 players the Eagles should target. That's what we're trying to find out in today's video. So if you enjoy this kind of content, guys, if you're new around here, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, leave a like and drop your comments. Who do you want to see drafted in the 4th round? Who do you think the steals are in this year's class? My name is Liam Jenkins. You can follow me on Twitter at LiamJenkins21. Let's get into it. We're going to kick things off with a running back, and in the event the Eagles don't pick one up with either of their 2nd round picks, or the unlikely event in which they double dip at the position, I feel like David Montgomery will be a perfect complement to Jordan Howard, especially since Howard's on a 1-year deal. This almost budget version of David Johnson would be the perfect heir to the throne to spend a year marinating in the background, picking up those short yardage situations and learning under Howard and Juice Staley. He forced a nation best 99 missed tackles, and the year before had 109, which broke a Pro Football Focus record. He had stellar games with less than stellar blocking against teams like Oklahoma and TCU, and David Montgomery has the contact balance of a human video game. He doesn't have the burst or the breakaway speed of some of the other running backs in this class, but as someone that's patient, can hit the hole, and is built for a zonal rushing scheme who can get outside and hit the crease, I feel like Montgomery would fit beautifully in Doug Peterson's scheme. He would be a nice little addition under Jordan Howard when Howard needs a breather, at least in year 1. I think the Eagles already have some versatile options with guys like Smallwood and Clement. Adding Montgomery just reinforces that vision and keeps that bowling ball mentality. Montgomery can make guys miss, but he can also bowl them over, and make no mistake, the running back means business. His change of direction can take a little while. He doesn't have the agility of someone like Devin Singletary, but he counters that with that thicker base. He's got the nastiness to pound through the hole, and I think that kind of eradicates the agility argument. This is a true power back that's also workable as a pass catcher. Let's not write that off. He caught 22 passes last year, but 36 for 296 yards in the year before that. Montgomery would fit exactly what Peterson wants to do offensively, and if Jordan Howard earns the big bag, which he's sure going to in 2019, then Montgomery can step up to the plate 1 year later and already has a year experience in the system. The drop-off in immediate impact potential at defensive end from round 1 and below is quite substantial, and luckily for the Eagles, they don't need to find that. They've got Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham on one side, and on the other, Chris Long and Vinny Curry. How long will that remain the same? We don't know, and this is where drafting a man who in 2017 had 15.5 tackles for a loss and 7 sacks to his name comes in. Jalen Jelks has kind of dropped a lot of weight during his time at the Oregon Ducks, and at 6'6", 245 pounds, has kind of lined up everywhere. He flashed a lot at Senior Bowl practices, and the man is simply a ticking time bomb and uses every bit of that length to find leverage against more powerful offensive tackles. Jelks cemented himself as a penetrative defensive end who can hastily get into the backfield and cause nothing but disruption. He's fun to watch, brings a lot of burst to the table, and the Eagles need to find another long-term piece to partner with Derek Barnett. He also led the conference with tackles by defensive linemen with a total of 57. While some look at his kind of lengthier frame that is a little bit too skinny to play inside, I would liken him to someone such as Cassius Marsh, who the Seahawks took a 4th round pick on in 2014. It's bizarre that I think Jelks could be drafted within that same sort of region. You can see that explosiveness flashing on almost every play, and although the combine scores were a little bit lower than expected, he may not consistently win at the point of the attack, but he does have a very strong sense of football awareness. He can drop off at any point, and that's highlighted by the fact that if you look at his passes defense, he had 7 in that 2017 campaign. He's an aware defensive end that is happily going to sprint outside, has got strong sideline to sideline speed, and in a running game where it's plenty of screens and bubbles and sweeps nowadays, you need a defensive end that can kind of stretch the field and almost blend into that DB type of build, and Jelks fits that absolutely perfectly. For me, it's a no-brainer. If Jelks is on the board in the 4th round, he fits what the Eagles want to do, add some speed, and if the need for speed is what the Eagles are after, Jelks has it in abundance. USC's starting right tackle for the last 2 years also has experience on the other side of the bookshelf and projects favourably into Peterson's zonal blocking scheme. Odo stands at 6'3", 304 pounds, but moves like a defensive end. He explodes out of his kick stance, although sometimes a little bit too much, and has a rare blend of both mobility and hand technique. 34 3/4 inch arms, it's hard not to see the value in the length Odo brings to the table. There are some red flags with injuries and a suspension on his resume, but in terms of an athletic profile, Odo could be the best of the bunch on day 3. He's more of a fluid blocker than a powerful one, and when asked to anchor, he can sometimes get overwhelmed early. But if he's driving to the second level or carving open rushing lanes, good luck if you're on the defense. And that's exactly what the Eagles are looking for in an offensive tackle. I feel honestly at this point though that the Eagles are so in love with Titus Howard, who is soaring up draft boards right now, that drafting another tackle almost seems alien. But if they are indeed comfortable with Halapoulivaati Vaitai as their backup, as they should be, then a year learning under Jeff Stoutland could benefit Odo greatly. As of right now, there's no middle mark. You've got Vaitai, who started both sides, and then a real project tackle in Mailata. I feel Odo would fit that middle niche perfectly to come in and immediately be dropped into the deep end if needed to at a moment's notice. It at least gives the Eagles a breath of serenity while trying to figure out who the true heir to Jason Peters' throne really is. Next up on our list is Carlin Saunders, a small school sleeper who has now burst into celebrity for 2 reasons. 1, a backflip video, which considering he's 6 foot 318 pounds is staggering in itself, and 2, the fact his baby was born on the first day of Senior Bowl practice and the man was in Mobile grinding it out trying to carve a career for himself. So it's an incredible story that has seen this raw FCS prospect be projected into the NFL spotlight, and he's got all the physical tools that scouts will love. He's got size, athleticism, he's violent with his hands, and he bursts off the line. He's also got a little bit of wiggle, which I think is a little bit rare to say for a defensive tackle. He's got unbelievable athleticism, if you haven't guessed already by the fact the man can do a backflip, and he pushes around smaller opponents for fun. He's a real bully at the position. He's got great lateral movement, incredibly tight footwork, which again is quite rare for a man of his size. He's got great closing speed and rush from a standing position on the outside, as well as a 3-point stance, so he's versatile in terms of where he can line up. The problem is that he's not going to be a day 1 starter, and that's fine. His technique's going to need a lot of work, and his mental processing isn't quite up there with some of the more higher rated prospects in this class. His conditioning could also be an issue. He's not going to be 3-down defensive tackle off the bat, and in terms of closing gaps, there are times where if he can't win the battle straight away with that first punch or the first move, that there's not much after that, and he can kind of get pushed back the other way. FCS level of competition will indeed be held against him, but in terms of what the Eagles are looking for, their draft history hints at lower level defensive tackles who are projects. CC Destiny Vio and Bo Allen for the 2 most recent cases are mentioned in a recent video, who combined for 64% of snaps in the Eagles Super Bowl winning season. They don't need a starter right away. Cox and Malik Jackson can hold it down, and after an impressive combine, the Eagles have a real stud to work with Carlin Saunders. I think it could be an absolute steal wherever he lands, but if he does indeed fall into the laps of Philadelphia, being able to develop behind Fletcher Cox, learn under Malik Jackson, it's a very valuable weapon to have. The effort he possesses is second to none, and with all the athletic makeup of a violent pass rusher who can get down and dirty and penetrate into the backfield, the rest can all be coached up. It's mental processing and conditioning. That's what sports science is for. If he's available in the heart of round 4 or even at the tail end of it, I think the Eagles could be onto a stud. And finally, one of my real draft crushes this year is linebacker David Long Jr. out of West Virginia. There's one real reason why the Eagles would be interested, and that there is a pattern of West Virginia players making it to Philadelphia. CC Wendell Smallwood, CC Russell Douglas, the list goes on. But Long is a definition of a player who has produced incredibly well despite being undersized, and now he's getting to the NFL level at 5'11" with 227 pounds on his frame. Some guys are overlooking him, but this is a Mike linebacker who will fly around the field. The guy is just an absolute speed demon, and we're talking about production where in his final season he had 108 tackles and 19.5 of them for a loss, which is like a fifth of his tackles went for a loss to go with 7 sacks. This is a firm athlete that will fly around the field. If you want him to sit in zone coverage and underneath and pick up tight ends and running backs, this isn't the linebacker for you. But if you want someone that's going to go sideline to sideline, eliminate those dual quarterback threats, versatile running backs who are going to be sweeping to the outside, then Long is a guy that is going to get from the middle to the sideline before most people on the offense. His short area quickness is effective, and although he does have a tremendous level of burst and acceleration, the one thing that holds against him despite his size is flexibility. He plays quite rigid, and if he does take a firm tackling angle and he can't quite adjust to get it right and maneuver, it can come back to haunt him. So more elusive ball carriers and running backs at the next level may toy with Long a bit. If he does go flying into a tackle, he can be a little bit sporadic. Linebackers in today's game, we want to talk range, you want to talk agility, and I think Long has got both traits and then some more. The guy is rapid in every sense of the word, and he's almost become the guy in the Mountaineers defense. This is someone that will be the Mike linebacker. If you want to replace Jordan Hicks, imagine a quicker version and someone that instead of sitting back and it's going to pluck interceptions, this is someone that can still leap up. He's got 10 passes defense in the last 2 years, but he will be a menace getting sideways. And the Eagles want to get quicker. They've shown it on offense. They showed it again by retaining the services of Ronald Darby and keeping so many defensive backs, moving more and more into these nickel and dime packages. David Long is going to be that hybrid level of aggression and nastiness that you need in a linebacker, but again, sort of like Jalen Jelks, almost fits that defensive back level skill set. So if the Eagles want to spend a draft where they're getting lighter, they're getting quicker, they're getting more burstful to eliminate those short yardage chunk plays in open space, then Long is a guy that will come crushing through the thunder and make life hell for anyone else. But what do you think, guys? Who do you want the Eagles to draft next weekend? Let me know down in the comments. We've got one more mock draft and 2 more of these videos coming up. Don't forget to get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports content from myself and all of our writers over at phillysportsnetwork.com. But from myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time.